Excelsior! So I'm going to read Tales from the Crypt number 25. It says number 9 on the cover, but it's actually number 25. So this was published in September of 1951. So objectionable 1950s EC Comics. Tales from the Crypt. Featuring the Crypt Keeper, the Old Witch, the Vault Keeper.
Since Henry's mysterious disappearance, I've had to work late every night. And, good Lord, this isn't wax. This is a human hand.
The Crypt of Terror.
Well, I see you managed to scrounge up cold cash for this copy of The Crypt of Terror. Good. Don't worry. You won't be sorry. You'll get more than your money's worth of chills. I'll see to it. Yes, it's me again, your host in horror, the Crypt Keeper. Welcome once more to my hovel, the Crypt of Terror. For my first offering to curdle your blood, I have chosen one of my best terror tales from my vast collection of spine-tinglers here in the crypt. This is the story of Clyde Franklin, the renowned animal hunter. Remember him? Remember when he disappeared? Well, I found him, or what's left of him. This is his story, as he told it to me, in his very words. Clyde sarcastically calls it the trophy.
Yes, I'm Clyde Franklin. My story begins one night in my luxurious home. It was the night before I was to leave on another of my hunting expeditions. A reporter from the Morning Globe had dropped in to interview me. I found him waiting for me in the trophy room. He stared at the headlined walls, wide-eyed. "Ah, I see you have discovered my trophy room." "Oh, Mr. Franklin, you startled me." I had to keep myself from laughing. The reporter was pale as a ghost. "Don't you like my souvenirs?" They're gruesome. Some of them look so alive." "Oh, come now, sir. These are my mementos of my past hunting trips. They're my records of achievement." "How could you? Huh? How could you hunt these poor creatures, kill them, then stuff their heads and hang them here? It's cruel, cruel." Now, be reasonable, sir. I hunt for the pure sport of it. These are my scores, like touchdowns in football. Surely you cannot deny a man his sport." "Sport, is it? It's murder! These poor creatures once lived, like you or I. You murdered them." I think this interview is at an end, young man. Good evening. Good night." The young reporter stormed out of my trophy room, stamped across the marble hall, whisked his hat off the rack, opened the huge oak door, and slammed it hard. I began to laugh. "Poor fool! Ha 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 ha! What's he so worked up about? After all, they're only animals." The next morning I was up at dawn. After a hearty breakfast, I packed the last remaining necessities into my station wagon, and bid goodbye to my servants. "Goodbye, Jeeves. I'll bring a moose head just for you." "Goodbye, sir. Good luck." My trip this time was to take me up to the Alaskan highway, in search of caribou, puma, moose, or any other unfortunate animal that might cross my gun sights. After Africa and India, this trip will be tame. Just a few miles out of Prince George, Canada, I made my first camp. There ought to be plenty of moose and caribou in these woods. I'll try my luck bright and early tomorrow morning. The next day I tracked a moose for 3 hours. Finally, I caught up with him. He was standing in the shallow waters of a small lake, drinking his fill. "Look at those antlers! What a trophy he'll make!" He turned toward me and bellowed as I came out in the open. I raised my gun, sighted carefully, and he dropped to his knees. He snorted in pain. His beady eyes reddened. He stumbled to his feet and charged. I stood my ground. I raised my gun again. I waited until I knew I could hit the vital spot. Then I fired. He went down as the bullet struck him. He rolled over and lay dead at my feet. He was tremendous. His head was going to be a wonderful addition to my trophy room. I unsheathed my knife and set to work. The next day, I broke camp and continued on my way. About noon, I stopped at one of the few gas stations along the Alaskan highway.
"Better fill her up, mister, and take a can to spare. Next station's 200 miles.
Good idea.
Say, that's some moose head you got there. Where'd you bag 'em?"
North of Prince George. He's a beauty, isn't he?
"Where's the carcass?"
I left it. I just wanted the head for my trophy room.
"Shucks, that's a lot of meat gone to waste. Folks up here hunt for food."
Well, I hunt for sport. I was toward evening that it happened. I was speeding along at a fair clip when I saw the board stretched across the road. Spikes! I slammed my foot down on the brakes. The 2 front tires exploded as the spikes ripped into them. The station wagon lurched crazily, and I felt it going over. There was a horrible crash, and everything went black. When I came to, I was lying on a couch in a rustic cabin. As the cobwebs cleared, I heard a strange sound. It was the steady throbbing of a motor, coming from the next room. Where am I? I remember. The crash! Suddenly, as I lay there, I heard voices coming from the room with the throbbing motor. No! Please! Don't! Have mercy! My blood froze in my veins. It sounded like someone was being tortured. Please, no! What in blazes? I've got to... I tried to move. An excruciating pain shot through my leg. I looked down. It was twisted. It was broken. My leg is broken. I can't move. Suddenly, the door opened. For a moment I heard the motor. Louder. And there was another sound. A gurgling sound. Like water being pumped through pipes. You've come around. He closed the door, shutting out the sounds. He smiled at me. How do you feel? I was afraid you might have a concussion. Fine, except for my leg. You talk like you know something about medicine. Why couldn't you put my leg in a splint?
I'm not interested in your leg.
What kind of a man are you? Who have you got in there? It sounds like you're torturing him.
You heard?
Yes. Look, you've got to set my leg, or get me to a doctor.
You're not going anywhere. You're my prisoner.
The spikes! You put them across the road.
Exactly. Let's say I bagged you as a hunter bags an animal.
What are you going to do with me? He turned and started out the door.
You'll see. You'll see.
I watched him as he crossed the clearing and entered what appeared to be a woodshed. He was obviously mad. Whoever he had in that room, with the ceasingly throbbing motor, was in great pain. I decided to try to reach the door, to see. My leg! It's killing me! With a great deal of effort, I managed to half-hop, half-drag myself across the room, to the door. I flung it open. Why, there's no one in here. The room was empty. On a bare white table was a rather large round box. It looked like a hat box. On the floor, a small motor throbbed. It seemed to be a pump arrangement. From an attached tank, several rubber tubes ran off toward the table. If I heard the motor, and it's here, then the person I heard must be here too. Over the table, a bottle hung upside down. It looked like the kind of bottle used to administer plasma. A tube ran from it, down to the table. Funny, all the tubes seemed to run under that box. I dragged myself, painfully, to the table. I stared down at the strange box. I saw now that it was only a cover. Suddenly, the hair on the back of my neck crawled. Once again came that pathetic, sad moan. It came from the box. I grasped the handle and raised the cover. The most horrifying sight I had ever seen met my eyes. I screamed, "Ah!" There, on the table, was a living, breathing, human head. It blinked at me through wide eyes. "Run, you fool! Get away from here! He's mad! Mad!" I stood rooted to the spot, unable to move. The indescribable horror, I felt numb my senses. "Do you hear me? Get out before it's too late! Do you want to end up like me?" Suddenly, the head's wide, staring eyes looked beyond me. I spun around.
Well, I see you have discovered my trophy room.
Your trophy room?
Why, yes. This is where I will keep the heads of all of my game.
He turned and took a can off the shelf. "You're crazy! You can't hunt human beings!"
Why not? I hunt 'em for the pure sport of it.
Then he reached for a sponge. "Sport? It's murder!"
Call it what you will. It's my idea of sport.
He came at me with the can and sponge. I tried to get away, but my broken leg sent me sprawling. He clapped the damp sponge over my nose and mouth, and I smelled the sickening, pungent odor of chloroform. I began to lose consciousness, drifting off into a black abyss.
After all, they're only human beings.
When the darkness faded, and I came to, I was staring out over the white expanse of the tabletop. The door opened. He came in. He had someone with him.
But before you die, I want you to see my trophy room.
He pointed at me. The man with him was cut and bruised, as if he had been in an accident.
And this is my latest memento from a past hunting trip. Soon, you too will become one of my records of achievement. Yes, that's Clyde Franklin's story. In his own words. That's how he told it to me when I dropped in to see my friend, who lives in the little cabin near the Alaskan highway. You should see his trophy room now. He's getting to be quite the hunter. Now, I'll turn you over to my fellow ghoul lunatic, the Vault Keeper, for some more skullduggery.
The Vault of Horror. I see it's guest time for me again. Time for me to grace the pages of the Crypt Keeper's magazine with a horror tale from my private collection of spine tinglers here in the Vault of Horror. Yes, I am the Vault Keeper. Come in and lie down on that stretch rack over there. You'll have a ripping good time with this tale of the macabre I am about to relate. I call it, Judy, You're Not Yourself Today. Donald Abelson stood at the door of his lovely little home and kissed his wife goodbye. He was leaving for the office. He looked into her soft brown eyes and whispered the warning he had regularly repeated every morning since they had been married.
Goodbye, Judy dear. I'll be home at the usual time. Remember, don't open the door to strangers.
I won't, Don. Goodbye. Don't work too hard.
Judy Abelson watched her husband, Donald, stroll down the small-town street, flag his regular morning bus as it came to the corner, and get aboard. She wafted her usual farewell kiss after him as the bus roared away down the tree-lined street. Then she went inside. She closed the door and sighed.
Poor darling. He worries me so. Always afraid something might happen to me when he leaves me alone every day. Oh dear, someone's at the door.
Judy opened the door and peeked out. On the steps stood a bent and wrinkled old lady, her head covered with a ragged shawl. As her beady eyes caught sight of Judy, she grinned a toothless grin.
Please, young lady, have pity on the poor old woman who hasn't eaten in 2 days. Spare a crust of bread or a coin, please.
Wait a moment, please.
Judy hurried into the kitchen and got her purse. As she came back through the house,
The poor woman, having to beg from door to door for a bite to eat. I'll just...
You have a lovely home, ma'am. But better still, you have a lovely young body. Just what I've been looking for.
Judy stared into the old woman's bloodshot eyes. Icy fingers clutched at her racing heart.
My body? What do you mean? What do you want?
I am an old woman, child. My body is bent with age, aching with the pain of tired bones. I am going to take your body and give you mine. A fair exchange.
You're joking with me. Here's $1. Now, please go.
No, my dear, I am not joking. You are exactly what I've been looking for.
The gnarled, greased old woman reached out a knotty, wrinkled hand and caught Judy's wrist. She began to utter weird syllables and incoherent jargon. Judy started to feel weak, dizzy. She screamed,
Ah! Come to Alcor, Ladimo, Vishnu, Agro, Lando, Minshu.
Suddenly, everything went black. Judy felt herself falling into the empty velvet black void of unconsciousness. When she came to, she was lying on the floor. She stared down at the familiar rug. Then her gaze fell upon her hand. It was knotty, wrinkled, the hand of an old woman.
No! Oh, dear God, no!
Judy scrambled to her feet and stumbled to the mirror above the fireplace. She looked, horrified, at the image she saw. It was the face of a beady-eyed, toothless, bent old lady. Ah! Judy rushed to the telephone. Unbearable pains shot like needles through her gnarled and crooked limbs.
Donald, this is Judy. Come home. Quickly. Something horrible has happened.
Meanwhile, a trim young figure moved down the main street of the small town. The stolen body of Judy Abelson.
Didn't even say hello. Funny. She'd acted like she never saw us before.
15 minutes later, Donald Abelson burst through the front door of his house.
Judy, where are you?
Sprawled on the couch of the living room, Donald found a sobbing old woman.
What are you doing here? Where's my wife?
Donald!
The gnarled old woman rushed to Donald and flung her bony arms about his neck.
Oh, Donald! Donald! I am your wife!
What in blazes?
Donald stifled the feeling of nausea that swept over him as the old crone kissed his cheeks and wept.
For God's sake, old woman, stop your whimpering and tell me. What did you do with Judy?
I am Judy, Donald. Believe me, I am.
Judy no longer possessing her young, trim body, but that of an aged woman, sobbed out the whole story.
And when I regained consciousness, I found myself in her body. Donald, what will I do? What will I do?
Donald listened to her incredible story. He stared at the old woman in disbelief.
I don't believe you. I can't.
Let me prove I am Judy, Donald. Ask me anything that only Judy would know.
Donald turned away. He thought for a moment, and then...
All right. If you can answer this, I might believe you. What was the number of the room in the hotel where we spent our honeymoon?
709!
Donald couldn't believe his ears. He asked other questions, more personal questions. The bent old woman answered them all correctly.
Now will you believe me?
It's horrible. Horrible. Why?
The ringing of the telephone interrupted Donald's exclamation.
Hello? Don, this is George, down at the station. You and your wife have a quarrel, old boy? Why, no. What makes you ask? She's down here, waiting for the 3:10. Bought a ticket to New York. Now, I don't mean to pry, but...
Donald hung up. He spun around, facing the wrinkled woman.
You say you're Judy. If you are, you'll follow my instructions. Do anything I want.
Anything, anything!
Donald led the old woman to a closet. He opened the door.
Hurry. There's no time to lose. Perhaps it isn't too late. I have a plan. But I've got to lock you in this closet. Will you let me?
If it will help, Donald. Of course.
Donald closed the closet door on the old woman and locked it. He pocketed the key and ran from the house. He cursed the traffic as he sped downtown in his car.
She must be Judy. She must be. No one else would have been able to answer those questions.
It was 3 o'clock when Donald reached the station. He spotted Judy's familiar figure sitting in the waiting room. He walked up to her. She looked at him blankly, without recognition.
She doesn't know me. It is true. It is true. This is Judy's body. But Judy's back home. In the old woman's body.
Suddenly, a desperate, mad idea crashed into Donald's mind. He stepped up to Judy's body and snarled.
So you're running away, Judy? So you can't face the fact that you have cancer? That you're going to die in 2 months?
Huh? Cancer? Die?
Go ahead. Run away. You think you'll spare me the grief of watching you die, huh? All right. If that's the way you want it.
Cancer. Die. What have I done? I've got to get it back. Get my body back. Camdo Argo Radimo.
Suddenly, Judy's body, seated on the bench, stiffened. Then, the color drained from her cheeks. She slumped forward.
Judy? Judy!
What happened? Where am I? Oh, Donald, darling. Donald! I've got my body back. She's given it back.
Come on. We've got to get to the house.
Donald and Judy sped back across town. They rushed into the house. Someone was hammering on the closet door. Donald took his gun from the desk.
She's in there, Judy. Locked in the closet.
What are you going to do, Donald?
I'm going to kill her, Judy. She's evil. I've got to kill her, or she'll do this horrible thing again. No one will miss her. We'll bury her in the cellar.
Donald emptied his gun into the closet door. Then they opened it. The old woman was dead. They carried her body to the cellar and buried her.
It's better this way, Judy dear.
Yes, Donald.
Ha ha! No, kiddies. My story isn't over. Not yet. The end game about 6 months later. One night, after Judy and Donald had gotten to bed, Judy had a terrible nightmare. She heard the old woman's voice, uttering those strange words. When she awoke, yes, Judy found herself buried in the cellar. Dirt filled her toothless mouth, pressed against her beady eyes. She pushed up into the cold, fresh air.
She's taken my body again. She's done it again.
Judy, now in the corpse of the old woman, stumbled up the cellar stairs. Bits of rotted flesh fell away as she moved through the house to Donald's bedroom.
Who's there? Good Lord!
It's me, Donald. Judy, she's taken my body again. Kill her, Donald. Kill her and set me free.
Donald went for his gun. The decayed, foul-smelling corpse of the old woman followed him to Judy's room. Donald flung open the door. The body of his wife, Judy, was dressing frantically.
Got to get away before he...
Kill her, Donald! Shoot her! Shoot! The gunshot echoed through the dark house. Judy's body slumped to the floor. Then the corpse of the old woman tottered and collapsed.
Judy! Judy! Where are you?
Suddenly, Judy, now repossessed of her own body, gasped, and as she passed away,
I'm here, Donald. I'm... where I belong.
Judy! Judy!
Well, there's a weird little tale, huh? But there's a lesson to be learned, kiddies. Don't make fun of that strange old woman who comes begging. You might find yourself in her shoes. Oh, by the way, you can have back issues starring me, the old witch, and my host, the Crypt Keeper, if you want them. Just read the Crypt Keeper's Corner in this issue. This is the Vault Keeper saying, bye now.
So that's the end of part 1. So the next video will be part 2. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you could like, comment, and subscribe, that'd be appreciated. If you have any requests you want me to do, just let me know in the comments if you have any requests for me. And I'll tell you when I can probably do it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys later.